Anybody received something like this before? Certified, bold-face print, the Internal Revenue Service? Wow, this can't be good news. Are there any tax examiners here today? I just want to ask because I might tell a story about the IRS and there might be consequences, so I just want to know. It's my tax return. You know the tax return that you fill out, frantically finish by April 15th and then send it off? The IRS returned my return. And they discredited, they erased, they reconfigured my entire return. They're calling me a liar. It says here that they demand that I pay them $13,000. Is this a joke? Is this for me? Is this? I don't have $13,000. I'm an actor, you know. I'm an artist. I shop at thrift stores and I eat cucumbers and I say, wow, each bite costs 3.5 cents. And no apologies, I chose to be an artist. I chose, so it's not, oh, poor me. No, it's poor me. When I first got this letter, I was just like, well, hey, yeah, who are these guys, the IRS? What are they? You know, they're just a bunch of accountants, you know, and bureaucrats who deal with numbers and spreadsheets with boxes and boxes of numbers and rows and columns. And they love living inside a box. Their whole life transfers to a box, and they say, well, this is when I start my job, and this is when I finish my job, and this is when I get a raise and a promotion, and this is when I retire. You think it's lame, but I feel protected inside my little box. Yes, I do lame things, like go to Bennigan's and have lame apple martinis and take my mozzarella sticks and dip them in the marinara and get down to Steve Miller. Steve Miller, keep on rocking me, baby. Baby. What am I worried about these guys for? They live in a box. I'm an artist. I'm free and easy, you know. There's no boxes over here. It's Bach. Air on a G string. I'm free. I was wrong. The IRS is the most powerful government agency that we have in this country. I know, I looked it up. Wikipedia. There's no governing body over the IRS. They can do whatever they want. Like take my tax return and write, woo, and return it to me. They have the legal authority to seize and obtain assets without obtaining a judgment in court. They can walk right into your apartment and just take your stuff. Sure, you can take them to court, but you know where you're going? You're going to tax court. You're going to their court. They've arrested and convicted notable gangsters like Al Capone from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the guy who took a baseball bat to one of his own guys and beat him over the head at a fancy dinner, bashed his brains in all over the china. They can't arrest him for that. The FBI, the CIA, the police, state, nobody. But you know who got him? The IRS. If they can take down Al Capone, what chance do I have? Frightened. That's the best word, because no matter how fast or how slow you say that word, you always hold your breath in there for a split second. Frightened. The burden of proof was on me to organize and defend and interpret each and every one of my 954 deductions. Interpret with tax law. Do you know right now the U.S. tax code sits at 70,000 pages? 70,000, 8.5 by 11 single-space pages? That's 8 copies of War and Peace. To an artist, that's a nightstand. Or pay $13,000. Well, I have to fight them, don't I? I have to defend myself. So I sat alone in my apartment with my cats, and I muscled up some courage. And I was declaring a duel, like a founding father, like Alexander Hamilton against Aaron Burr. It was the art versus bureaucracy, artist versus bureaucrat. I think I even stood like that. That was entitled, yeah. And I began to compile my 1,500 receipts. I took them all out. I threw them all down at the floor, and they piled up to my knees. It was like a snowdrift of receipts. And I had this brilliant idea to create a spreadsheet, which was great because I learned what a spreadsheet was. It's boxes and boxes with rows and columns. And for me, it's a map that would detail each and every one of my expenses, and it would all lead to one giant conclusion. I am not a liar. See, for the IRS, it was just numbers on a page. It wasn't personal, but for me, it was very personal. It was a record of a year of my life. And as I began putting this document together, it took me 6 months. I started talking to the imaginary IRS that was in my head, and I would say, Mr. IRS, who are you? Who are you to judge me and defend me? You want to seize my assets? I'm an artist. I'm poor. I live in poverty like Van Gogh. Like Henry Miller, I'm to the bone, I'm raw. There's no governing body over you, there's no governing body over me, except all the artists who have ever come before me, whose very lives were a work of art, people who lived with integrity, like Maya Angelou, the people who told the truth, like Eugene O'Neill, and they wrestled with their demons, like Jim Morrison. You have power. Well, I don't have a need for power. There's no need for power for me. I'm an artist, I'm a vessel. I just let it flow through me. Yeah, like Mozart, I let the divine flow of love pass through me. Like Miles Davis, I'm kind of blue. And after 6 months of piecing this together, I looked at my spreadsheet that was organized and highlighted and page numbered. It was gorgeous. It was my creation. As an accountant, I'm an artist. And I was prepared. I was ready to defend myself, going to battle against the big bully, the big Goliath, the big behemoth. And I went over to the office over here in Glendale. It's on the 4th floor, ready for battle, and the elevator doors opened up, and it was everything that I had imagined. They had fluorescent lights and gray cubicles and hairstyles from 10 years ago, and sounds of adding machines and copiers, and the smell of old stale documents. Smells like victory. I was not prepared, however, for my opponent, my tax examiner, Mr. Trim. He was not a bully, he wasn't a behemoth, he was just like me. He was just a young guy, ambitious and clean cut. He could have been my brother, he was an average white guy. I was prepared for a bully, but I was not prepared for my brother. And Mr. Trim and I would get to know each other very well over the next 2 months.
Oh.
Yeah, 2 months. We would meet 2 to 3 times a week, and each meeting was 2 to 3 hours at a time. It was taxing. Mostly it was me defending myself, and him saying, yes, but is it deductible? I see here that you wanted to expense an audition shirt because it's hunter green and you look good in earth tones. But you can wear that on the street, you can't deduct that. Oh, but I didn't wear it on the street, but you could, but I wouldn't, but you could, but I don't, but you could, but I didn't. Yeah, I don't think so. I was not prepared for Mr. Trim. I was also not prepared for the major change that my life was about to undertake. I was scared of the IRS and scared of $13,000 and Mr. Trim. But you see, the change that occurred was because the numbers were on the page. The numbers, they didn't lie. I didn't lie. But it was what those numbers said about me, the space between the numbers, the space between the notes. That's what I didn't see. That's where the truth of my life existed, the truth of my actions day in and day out. That's where my life was being audited. And that truth, it was not deductible.
Hmm.